think one aspect of whatever condition I had was I was just absolutely obsessed with truth. Just obsessed with truth. And so the obsession with truth is why I studied physics, because physics attempts to understand the truth of the universe.
So yes, I think it's possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary.
When you had that third failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. I mean, I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated.
22 hours a day, or like what? How many
I
hours?
was working, so 7 days a week, sleeping at the factory. I worked in the paint shop, general assembly, body shop.
You ever worry about yourself imploding? Like it's just too much?
Absolutely. No one should put this many hours into work. This is not good. And people should not work this hard. They should not do this. It's very painful.
Painful in what sense?
It hurts my brain and my heart. It hurts. This is not recommended for anyone. I just did it because if I didn't do it, then good chance Tesla would die.
I think certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and just being really rigorous in making that assessment, because people tend to, a natural human tendency is wishful thinking. So a challenge for entrepreneurs is to say, well, what's the difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that doesn't actually have merit? And that is a really difficult thing to tell. Can you tell the difference between those two things?
Right.
You know? So you need to be sort of very rigorous in your self-analysis. I think certainly extremely tenacious, and then just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, 80 to 100 hour weeks every week. And then
a lot of work.
all those things improve the odds of success.
Okay.
I mean, if other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that in 1 year you will achieve what they achieve. You will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve.
Okay. I like your work ethic.
I don't think you'd necessarily want to be me. It's very hard to turn it off all the time. It doesn't stop.
When I was young, I didn't really know what I was going to do when I got older.
I think when I was, 5 or 6 or something, I thought I was insane. Because it was clear that other people their mind wasn't exploding with ideas. It was just strange. It was like, I'm strange.
Eventually I thought that the idea of inventing things would be really cool. The reason I thought that was because I read a quote from Arthur C. Clarke which said that sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's really true. If you go back, say 300 years, the things that we take for granted today you'd be burned at the stake for. Being able to fly, that's crazy. Being able to see over long distances, being able to communicate. This is stuff that really would be considered magic in times past. If I can do some of those things, basically if I can advance technology, that's like magic and that would be really cool.
Were you a little naive when you thought I can easily build an electric car and a rocket?
I didn't think it would be easy. Like I said, I thought they would probably fail. But creating a company is almost like having a child. So it's sort of like, how do you say your child should not have food?
So once you have the company, you have to feed it and nurse it and take care of it, even if it ruins you.
Yeah.
But I suppose there were some tough times in end of 2008. How did you get through that period of crisis?
Yeah.
2000 and...
Can we just break for a second?
Sure, of course. You want to wait a little while?
Yeah, sure hope it was worth it. Sure hope so.
Pardon me?
Sure hope it was worth it.
One of the most difficult choices I have ever faced
in life was in 2008. I think I had maybe $30 million left, or $30 or $40 million left in 2008, and I had two choices. I could put it all into one company, and then the other company would definitely die, or split it between the two companies. But if I split it between the two companies, then both might die. And when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating something, building something, it's like a child. And so it's like, which one am I going to let one starve to death? I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I split the money between the two. Fortunately, thank goodness, they both came through.
You know, with Tesla, we're like trying to make things that people love. How many things can you buy that you really love, that really give you joy? So rare, so rare. I wish there were more things. That's what we try to do, just make things that somebody loves. Yes, doing something useful for other people that I like doing.
Generally, starting a business, I'd say number one is have a high pain threshold. That's it. There's a friend of mine who's got a good saying, which is that starting a company is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. That's generally what happens. Because when you first start a company, there's lots of optimism and things are great. And then, so happiness at first is high. Then you encounter all sorts of issues, and happiness will steadily decline. And then you'll go through a whole world of hurt. And then eventually, if you succeed, and in most cases you will not succeed, and Tesla almost didn't succeed, came very close to failure, then if you succeed, then after a long time, you will finally get back to happiness.
And I want to know, what is the one thing that has surprised you about your life?
Well, I'm surprised by the whole thing, honestly. I certainly didn't expect to be for any of these things to happen, honestly. In fact, the only reason I started a company back in '95, an internet company, was because I couldn't get it. There were only a few internet companies, and I couldn't get a job at any of them. So I tried to get a job at Netscape, and sent my resume in and tried hanging out in the lobby, but I was too shy to talk to anyone. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to start a company because I can't get a job anywhere.
Really liking what you do, whatever area that you get into. Given that, even if you're the best, there's always a chance of failure. So I think it's important that you really like whatever you're doing. If you don't like it, life is too short. If you like what you're doing, you think about it even when you're not working. It's something that your mind is drawn to. And if you don't like it, you just really can't make it work, I think.
Well, you want to do, and particularly if you're starting a company, you need to work super hard. So what does super hard mean? When my brother and I were starting our first company,
I didn't have any money. In fact, I had negative money. I had huge student debts. In fact, I couldn't afford a place to stay and an office. So
instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. And we showered at the YMCA.
And there was an ISP on the floor below us, just a little tiny ISP. And we drilled a hole through the floor and connected a non-modem cable. That gave us our internet connectivity for like $100 a month.
And we're so hard up, we had just one computer. So the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night. 7 days a week, all the time. And I briefly had a girlfriend in that period, and in order to be with me, she had to sleep in the office. So work hard, every waking hour. That's the thing I would say, particularly if you're starting a company.
It's very important to actively seek out and listen very carefully to negative feedback. And this is something that people tend to avoid because it's painful. When friends get a product, I say, look, don't tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Otherwise, your friend is not going to tell you what he doesn't like. Right. It's going to say, oh, I love this and that, and leave out this is the stuff I don't like list. And sometimes even your enemies give you good negative feedback.
So I actually went to Russia 3 times to look at buying a refurbished ICBM. I can tell you it was very weird going there in late 2001, 2002, going to the Russian rocket forces and saying, I'd like to buy 2 of your biggest rockets. They thought I was crazy, but I did have money, so that was okay.
One good friend of mine collected a whole series of videos of rockets blowing up and made me watch those. He just didn't want me to lose all my money.
For SpaceX, the first 3 launches failed. We're just barely able to scrape together enough parts and money to do the 4th launch. If that 4th launch had failed, we would have been dead. I tried very hard to get the right expertise in for SpaceX. I tried hard to find a great chief engineer for the rocket, but the good chief engineers wouldn't join, and the bad ones, well, there was no point in hiring them. So I ended up being chief engineer of the rocket. So if I could have found somebody better, then we would have maybe had less than 3 failures.
You, like I mentioned, with SpaceX, you give a lot of people hope, and a lot of people look up to you. Millions of people look up to you. If we think about young people in high school, maybe in college, what advice would you give to them about if they want to try to do something big in this world, they want to really have a big positive impact, what advice would you give them about their career, maybe about life in general?
Try to be useful. Do things that are useful to your fellow human beings, to the world. It's very hard to be useful. Very hard. Are you contributing more than you consume? Can you try to have a positive net contribution to society? I think that's the thing to aim for. Not to try to be sort of a leader for the sake of being a leader or whatever. A lot of time, the people you want as leaders are the people who don't want to be leaders. So, if you can live a useful life, that is a good life, a life worth having lived. And like I said, I would encourage people to use the mental tools of physics and apply them broadly in life. They are the best tools.
When you think about education and self-education, what do you recommend? So there's the university, there's self-study, there is hands-on, sort of finding a company or a place or a set of people that do the thing you're passionate about and joining them as early as possible. There's taking a road trip across Europe for a few years and writing some poetry. Which trajectory do you suggest? In terms of learning about how you can become useful, as you mentioned, how you can have the most positive impact.
But I'd encourage people to read a lot of books. Just read, basically try to ingest as much information as you can, and try to also just develop a good general knowledge. So you at least have like a rough lay of the land of the knowledge landscape. Try to learn a little bit about a lot of things. Because you might not know what you're really interested in. How would you know what you're really interested in if you at least aren't doing a peripheral exploration of broadly of the knowledge landscape? And talk to people from different walks of life and different industries and professions and skills and occupations. Just try learn as much as possible. Man's search for meaning.
Isn't the whole thing a search for meaning?
Yeah, what's the meaning of life and all, But just generally, like I said, I would encourage people to read broadly in many different subject areas, and then try to find something where there's an overlap of your talents and what you're interested in. So people may be good at something, or they may have skill at a particular thing, but they don't like doing it. Mm-hmm. So you want to try to find a thing where that's a good combination of the things that you're inherently good at, but you also like doing. And
reading is a super fast shortcut to figure out where are you. You're both good at it, you like doing it, and it will actually have positive impact.
Well, you got to learn about things somehow. So reading a broad range, just really read it. At one point when I was a kid, I read through the encyclopedia. So that was pretty helpful. And there are also things I didn't even know existed. Well, lots, obviously. And
it's as broad as it gets.
Encyclopedias were digestible, I think. Whatever, 40 years ago. Maybe read through the condensed version of the Encyclopedia Britannica. I'd recommend that. You can always skip subjects where you read a few paragraphs and you know you're not interested, just jump to the next one. So read the encyclopedia or skim through it. But I put a lot of stock and certainly have a lot of respect for someone who puts in an honest day's work to do useful things. And just generally to have not a zero-sum mindset, have more of a grow the pie mindset. If you sort of say when we see people perhaps including some very smart people kind of taking an attitude of doing things that seem morally questionable, it's often because they have at a base sort of axiomatic level a zero-sum mindset, and they, without realizing it, they don't realize they have a zero-sum mindset, or at least they don't realize it consciously. And so if you have a zero-sum mindset, then the only way to get ahead is by taking things from others. If the pie is fixed, then the only way to have more pie is to take someone else's pie. But this is false. Obviously the pie has grown dramatically over time, the economic pie. So in reality, you can have so overuse this analogy. You can have there's a lot of pie.
Yeah,
pie is not fixed.
Yes.
So you really want to make sure you're not operating without realizing it from a zero-sum mindset, where the only way to get ahead is to take things from others. Then that's going to result in you trying to take things from others, which is not good. It's much better to work on adding to the economic pie. Creating, like I said, creating more than you consume, doing more than you, So that's a big deal. I think there's a fair number of people in finance that do have a bit of a zero-sum mindset.
I mean, it's all walks of life. I've seen that. One of the reasons Rogan inspires me is he celebrates others a lot. There's not creating a constant competition. There's a scarcity of resources. What happens when you celebrate others and you promote others, the ideas of others, it actually grows that pie. I mean, the resources become less scarce. Mm-hmm. And that applies in a lot of kinds of domains. It applies in academia, where a lot of people are very see some funding for academic research is zero sum. It is not. If you celebrate each other, if you get everybody to be excited about AI, about physics, about mathematics, I think there'll be more and more funding, and I think everybody wins. Yeah, that applies, I think, broadly.
Yeah.
There are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight and the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that, because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here. And I think that would change their mind.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult.
Did you expect them to cheer you on?
Certainly hoping they would.
What are you trying to prove to them?
What I'm trying to do is to make a significant difference in spaceflight and help make spaceflight accessible to almost anyone.
One of the most difficult choices I've ever faced in life was in 2008, I think I had maybe $30 million left, or $30 or $40 million left in 2008. I had two choices. I could put it all into one company, and then the other company would definitely die, or split it between the two companies. But if I split it between the two companies, then both might die. When you put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating something and building something. It's like a child. And so it's like, which one am I going to let one starve to death? I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I split the money between the two. Fortunately, thank goodness, they both came through.